SnowTrax Television, going strong for 25 years. SnowTrax is sponsored by Ski-Doo Snowmobiles. Experience that Ski-Doo feeling. Yamaha, conquer snow. And by FXR Racing, maximum versatility for all conditions.
This past season, we partnered with Ski-Doo and put on what we were calling the Reach for the Summit Sweepstakes, which was a really unique contest with over 15,000 entries. And the winner got a chance to go out to CKMP in British Columbia, Canada, and ride with Carl Kuster, Tony Jenkins, and Rob Alford. And I gotta admit, I'm really excited about this trip as well. I mean, it's been a number of years since AJ and I both were at CKMP together. We've both been there apart on a number of occasions. So this opportunity to go to CKMP and ride with these pros and hang out with Carl for a bit was an exciting one.
When you're going to CKMP, you've got to fly into Kelowna, BC, and that's exactly where we went to. We got in before the winner did, and so we grabbed our rental car and waited around for him.
We are looking for our Reach for the Summit winner. His name's Elliott. We've never met other than on the phone, so I'm not 100% sure what he looks like, but I figure he'll probably recognize me, and hopefully that'll just solve the problem entirely.
So flying into Kelowna was actually really beautiful. I got a window seat and looking at all the mountains, looking at the terrain I'd be riding in. Still didn't feel real until I landed, went through customs.
Luke Lester, pleasure to meet you.
Yep, this is actually happening, and the camera guy right there.
Don AJ's just waiting in the car out in the parking lot there. We got to talking, and I learned a few things about him. You know, I could tell he was a passionate guy and loves riding. He's from Wisconsin. He does have a mountain sled, and he rides that in the UP of Michigan. So he's got some experience, you know, getting the sled on its side and getting stuck.
When he did arrive, I mean, even just him walking up to the truck, the smile was like ear to ear.
Have you ever been up to BC before?
Nope, this is my first time.
Have you been to Canada before?
I've been through Toronto.
Okay. Came up, got some maple syrup.
Oh, yeah.
Had some Tim Hortons, full Canadian experience.
On the drive-in from Kelowna to Malacqua, sitting in the truck with you guys was just surreal, because I see you guys on SnowTrax all the time, and you know, you guys are two average guys.
It was really refreshing for me to spend this time with a guy who's so overjoyed and just super excited to be doing what we're doing. I mean, that's what this is all about. When you arrive at CKMP, sometimes it's just a little bit overwhelming from the outside, and I mean that respectfully.
On the outside, it just kind of looks like a really big shed. I mean, there's 2 garage doors and a door on the side, and you know, a couple signs. And
as soon as we opened the man door to go into the basement shop area and Elliott walked through, I mean, it was just like, you know, eyes as big as saucers, and you could tell he was like, whoa, this is cool.
It's pretty cool, eh?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's got guys who work here full time, and all they do is keep these sleds running when he's got groups in and stuff gets busted or whatever.
Going upstairs into the actual dining room and bar, kitchen, it's clean, well kept. Bedrooms are awesome, showers are awesome. When I got here, I was just absolutely blown away. The pictures on the website really do not do this place justice.
One thing that they do right at CKMP is food, like gourmet first class. So we had Elliott all ramped up for an amazing dinner and didn't disappoint. But I think for him, the best part of dinner was when Carl Kuster walked in, walked right up to him and shook his hand and introduced himself.
We were just getting settled in for dinner, and he came walking through the door, and my eyes just lit up, and I was like, that's Carl Kuster. Like, you know, it was awesome. He just walked right up to me and was like, hey, what's going on? You know, that's happening right now. It's just absolutely amazing.
I like the contest because when the people come, they've been always so excited, and it really is something, doesn't matter if it's winning a trip snowmobiling or winning a Hot Wheels car or whatever. If you've won something, it's like, you know, how often do you get that nowadays, right? So to come out and do something super special, riding in the mountains, like, and see that scenery and feel the rush of going up and down the mountains on snowmobiles. I gotta imagine that that's a pretty special feeling.
So we woken up to an absolutely beautiful morning. It was sunny outside, but still very cold, so things were tight. We were a little bit slow going.
And after breakfast, it was time for us to take Elliott, the Reach for the Summit winner, for his first day of riding.
You know, I was jittering, ready to go outside, and I was probably had my gear on before anyone else, and that's when I got to meet Rob. Just walked up, shook my hand, how's it going? You excited? Meeting Tony for the first time, same kind of guy, just walked up, shook my hand.
Talk about an incredible experience to where you can have your entire trip paid for, and you come out here and ride with all of us.
You know, when you're meeting someone you never met before, you never know what to expect, but meeting Elliott, he had a permanent grin on his face from the first time I met him, and you could obviously see he really appreciated winning the contest. Being able to come out with me and Tony and Carl ride and just, you know, realize that we're just everyday guys that just love the mountains.
We didn't know anything about Elliott at all or any background, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to pick what you're going to do or where you're going to go or what sled you should even put him on. You know, he's coming off another brand, and I think he was really excited to hop on, you know, a new Summit.
Dude, I'm pumped. I got the sled picked out. Gonna go rip with the guys.
So before we went out, Carl actually spent a good hour with us outside going over avalanche safety. You know, he went through step by step, making sure how you track a beacon properly, and, you know, when you actually find someone under the snow, being able to mark it and probe it correctly so that way you save time and less effort trying to dig.
And as we were climbing up the side of the mountain in the truck, the conditions started looking better and better until we got to the unload point where there was just tons of snow. And at that point, I think we all knew this was going to be a good day.
Getting the sleds unloaded, you know, I'm giggling like a schoolgirl.
So what I really have in mind for Elliott is we want to take him up someplace that's nice and high where the snow is still cold. There's a big glacier that's mellow with some really steep walls that are north-facing and shaded, probably the last massive powder field left.
Oh, that's a lineup.
If how he's been acting this morning is an indication, I think he's going to just blow his mind today. I think he's going to lose it. He's like shaking. He's so excited, so.
You know, I was just kind of following the guys, and you know, every time we'd stop, they just go, all right, we're gonna go up this. I'm like, another big hill. I mean, the hills here, they're not hills. These are mountains. It's incredible to see these guys go up, and then, oh, it's my turn. I gotta go up. And sure enough, you know, I'm heading up just behind them. And, you know, by the time you look back, you're just like, I just went up that. And that's bigger than everything I even imagined doing when I came here. It was amazing. You look back a little bit and you're just like, there's no way I'm up this high. Like, dude, it's surreal.
This was the furthest point out I have ever been with Carl, and he was determined that we were going to make it to this glacier.
We got to a point and Carl just looked up and he goes, we're going up there. And I was like, what?
And then you look up and it's like another 1,000-foot elevation climb.
He's like, no, we're going up there no matter what.
Go across that bend, then I only have to climb up, and then I'm gonna have a hang of left, and then it kind of gives me room to have momentum, and then.
You know, it took me 3 times to get up there. First time I had to turn back, second time I got stuck mid-run, and each time they'd come down, you know, you're doing this wrong or you're doing that wrong, just simplify it.
And I thought it was going to be a gong show. But at the end of the day, Carl knows what he's doing. Tony and Rob, they know what they're doing. And they said, we can do it. And they weren't lying. We got up the side of that hill. And when we got to the top, man, Elliott was just beaming. It was the most extreme thing he's ever done. And he was super proud of himself.
Yeah, buddy. It's your biggest climb, I'm sure? Oh, yeah.
Once I got up to the top, it was just this surreal feel of accomplishment. I mean, is looking back at what I just conquered, not only just that one run, but the 10 runs before it, and just thinking that I just did all of those.
All of the struggle to get there was 100% worth it. Carl wasn't lying about how incredible this spot was. You could see for not just miles, but like tens of miles. You could see 3 mountain ranges over. It's one of the most beautiful spots I've ever seen in all of the mountain riding I've ever done. You know, and the funny part about it was as we were sitting up there and we're all reveling in how incredible this is and this sense of accomplishment for us all getting there, Carl says, okay, the riding area I want to ride is on the other side But before we go over there, we're gonna go up even further to the next spot and then jump off a cornice to get into the valley we want to actually ride in. And AJ and I are like, come on. When I look over at Elliott and he's just like, oh no, more. And you couldn't even see where you were gonna be landing. It was so steep. You know, and I look over at Tony and Rob and they're excited because this is what they do. And they're thinking about, oh, how far can I jump?
And we just kind of, you know, popped over one at a time. And it was pretty cool because it seemed like we were going somewhere that not many other people had been and somewhere that Carl doesn't take too many people.
You know, Carl and Rob and Tony were just like, just ease into it and you'll be fine. Sure enough, eased in over the top and down we went. And it just turned into just absolute perfectness. It was everything I could have ever dreamed of. You know, snow coming up over the top of the hood, you know, kind of getting face washed, and just that was everything I could have dreamed this trip would be.
He turned to me and he said, that's what I've dreamed about doing my entire life, is that exact thing that we just did. And I think at that point we could have left and he would have been completely satisfied.
But it was fun to be able to do that as brothers at the end of a season and, you know, go out and ride together and enjoy this, and then have Elliott jump along and follow us on some of these lines, which I think we may have been pushing his limits a few times. He didn't tell us till afterwards. I'm glad that we did finally crest that peak at the top of the mountain, get over the backside and find this fresh stuff, because that's the kind of story that Elliott's gonna have for the rest of his life.
The name of this contest was Reach for the Summit, and that's what we really wanted to achieve. On day 2, Carl had a spot picked out for us that was a little lower down the mountain, a little easier to get to, but had some really cool features.
Make sure you stay tuned to next week's episode for the continuation of our ride at CKMP with the Reach for the Summit winner, Elliott, as well as Luke and myself and the rest of the Skidoo ambassadors.
Trail Tech is sponsored by Princess Auto, a unique world of equipment, tools, and more.
Over the past many years, we've shown you a wide range of MBRP Powersports exhaust systems. We believe in the MBRP brand and trust them for honest performance numbers, high-quality exhaust products from our trucks to side-by-sides, ATVs to sleds. This week, I want to show you something that we've never truly seen before, the inner workings of how an exhaust system comes to be and what it takes to get real performance gains. While some exhaust manufacturers will just use a standard silencer and make it work with no concern for performance, MBRP is a company who's driven by performance and have an owner and leader who demand it. When I got the call to come check out the build process behind the all-new Polaris Patriot 850 exhaust system, yeah, I jumped at the opportunity. Right from the get-go, the crew at MBRP let me know that this was one of the most anticipated systems that they'd ever had, and demand has been incredible. A brand new 850 Patriot had been hooked up to the MBRP Land and Sea dyno, and runs were being completed to determine the baseline horsepower of the new motor. After the initial few runs, the team had determined the base horsepower of the all-new Patriot 850, and they were really impressed with the horsepower right out of the box. From this point, both measurements and fitment are looked at from the stock silencer as well as the remaining space to determine what is appropriate. The team has all the power and availability of the MBRP brand right here at the manufacturing facility, so the testing process, while still very in-depth and accurate, can happen quickly thanks to the in-house fabrication shop. The goals of a performance exhaust are to increase horsepower, decrease weight, and produce a crisp and throaty MBRP hallmark sound. But to get these three things takes a lot of know-how and experience. For the Patriot 850, the MBRP team has multiple silencer shapes to test and will produce a minimum of 2 different styles: a full race version that'll see significant weight reduction, the maximum horsepower gain, and sound reserved for competition purposes. And then a trail exhaust, which offers significantly reduced decibels to stay legal on most trail systems, offers some horsepower gains and again significant weight reduction. Keep in mind, all MBRP Powersports exhaust systems flow much freer, allowing for lower exhaust gas temps and lower restriction. And speaking of restriction, this is one area that the MBRP design team spends a lot of time on, ensuring that they get the proper amount of flow with each different design that they have, while also maintaining the proper back pressure for the Patriot 850. To get this formula right, each version of the exhaust will see as many as a dozen changes, requiring the silencer to be cut, more or less restriction put in place, re-welded, and then tested on the flow bench to ensure proper flow rates are achieved, following which the silencer can then be dyno tested on the Patriot to see how the changes have affected the performance. This process is incredible to watch, and to be there on the ground as they walk through it was enlightening and really showed me just how much goes into the production of an exhaust system at MBRP. While we don't have a finished product as of yet, stay tuned to a future episode where we're going to get our hands on all the different versions of the MBRP Patriot exhaust systems and be able to test them firsthand to show you exactly what comes out.
Closed captioning of SnowTrax is sponsored by Triton Trailers, built for adventure.
In battle, it's pretty hard to argue that having a bigger gun is a bad thing. But when your opponent is the one with the bigger gun, you really only have one choice. For a few seasons now, Skidoo has had the biggest gun, and it's been difficult for the rest to compete when the playing field is so uneven. This season, Polaris got fed up and brought not just a new gun, but a whole new weapons system to the fight, and it's going to change things big time. It is the Indy XC 850. Polaris's new Indy XC platform is basically just a switchback assault with a shorter tunnel. Now, if you're thinking that was a great place to start, then you're thinking exactly what I'm thinking. The Axis front end is, in the collective opinions of basically everyone here at SnowTrax TV, the best front end the snowmobile industry has ever seen. It blends near perfect ride quality with near perfect handling characteristics. It's a front end we've come to love, and it arrives unchanged on the new Indy XC. Walker Evans needle shocks up front will be familiar to everyone, and while we would like some easy-to-adjust QS3s up front just for the sake of simplicity, there really is nothing bad to say about the Walkers. They work great. Large and small bump compliance is excellent, with the small stuff being nearly erased and the big stuff handled with an almost Victorian composure. Turn-in and cornering is so trustworthy, you'd let it watch your kids if you could. But this is stuff we're already familiar with. It's something we've already seen before on the Switchback Assault. The truth is, what's really got people talking is what's under the hood and out back under your butt. Out back, the XC has an all-new skid frame Polaris is calling the Pro CC 129, which stands for conventional coupled and essentially just means it's a double-coupled setup that's wrapped in a 129-inch track. The front arm has been borrowed from the Rush, the Switchback, and the Assault, but the rear arm is a completely new design. The front shock is a 2-inch diameter Walker needle shock with a piggyback reservoir positioned for easy access to the clicker knob. The rear arm shock is a new concept that has the reservoir connected halfway down the shock body. Once the shock piston passes the reservoir channel, the oil then has to travel around the piston, which creates a strong rising rate. And when combined with a needle like the rest of Walker shocks, you get excellent anti-bottoming characteristics, but still maintain a plush ride. So the question is Pro CC an R-Motion killer? The answer is yes and no. In terms of on-trail ride, this new skid frame is just a tiny bit smoother on both the little stutter bumps and the larger trail-size moguls. Which means for the average trail rider, it is capable of providing what we think is the best ride in the industry. But I will say it's not quite as versatile as an R-Motion when it comes time to take it off-trail into the really aggressive bump. If you're not the kind of rider who ventures into the ungroomed abyss, the Pro CC is definitely what you want though. Really all that's left to talk about is what's under the hood, and this is definitely what's been generating the most excitement. Polaris's Patriot 850 is a brand new motor from the ground up, and contrary to what many people believed, including myself, this engine is not a knee-jerk reaction to Skidoo's 850. Polaris claims this is the most durable engine they've ever built. Now go ahead and roll your eyes. I'll wait. When you're done, listen carefully. Every 850 engine comes with a 4-year warranty included. Polaris is confident enough in this motor to stand behind it for 4 years. That says a lot in my opinion, but the truth is only time will tell. The next important point is that this motor is buttery smooth and has a power curve that's not really a curve at all, it's more like a straight line. Power comes on so clean and smooth and it builds with such a linear predictability, it's almost bizarre. Polaris won't officially release any horsepower numbers. The only hint about actual power output is that it makes 9% more horsepower than the Liberty 800. My math says that's somewhere in the 165 to 168 neighborhood. Does it feel as strong as other big two-strokes? Nope, it feels stronger. The final important point about the Patriot 850 is that when ridden at trail speeds, it actually uses less fuel than the old 800. Oil consumption is on par. So in a nutshell, you're getting a more durable engine that makes more power, but uses the same amount of fuel. My final thoughts on the new Indy XC 850 are these. First, the engine is incredible. Second, the chassis, front end, and overall rider ergonomics are as excellent as they've always been. And third, the Pro CC rear skid is outstanding. This sled is a winner for Polaris and for you, the consumer, and should be making its competition more than a little bit nervous.
SnowTrax has been sponsored by Polaris Snowmobiles, MBRP Powersports, race-inspired, trail-proven, and by the wide world of Arctic Cat.
If you enjoyed the video that you just watched, like it and then subscribe to our page for more great content from SnowTrax TV.